What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. 10mm ammo test series continued. Today we're on number 17, and this is kind of a deviation from the norm. This isn't exactly in line with our normal testing because we're usually testing factory ammo. Today's going to be some hand-loaded ammo, but this is actually not just regular Bubba reloads or anything like that. This is a pretty famous load in certain circles. This is known as a really, really hot reload. This is taking it to the max with a Hornady XTP 155 grain jacketed hollow point. It's pushing it with as much blue dot as I usually feel comfortable putting behind it. It's a lot to go ahead and cram in the case. The load itself is, like I said, known among certain people as just being the hot 155 grain load. It takes it up there beyond what's usually considered to be the Norma standard for 10mm, and I said not normal, but Norma, which would be a 180 grain projectile going at least 1,250 feet per second, or a 200 grain projectile going 1,200 feet per second. Somewhere in that area is considered to be the Norma load. So what these things really are is just basically, like I said, it's a 155 grain Hornady jacketed hollow point XTP, and it's in brand new Starline brass. That's the key to remember about this thing. I'm putting these in brand new Starline brass so that we don't have any previous stress on the brass, because this is a very hot load. I have new Winchester primers in there. Those are large pistol primers, and I'm using a powder called Blue Dot. I'm using 13 grains of Blue Dot, and never use my recipes. I'm not telling you to use that, but I'm just letting you know how I achieve it. I'm not showing how to make these rounds or anything like that. This is not an instructional video. Use your recipes that you know, but work them up when you're going to something this hot. Don't just, automatically load the hottest thing you possibly can that you found in the reloading book. In the reloading book, this is actually beyond the red line. If you're going to look at the Hornady Handbook of Reloading, the latest edition, this is a half of a grain past what they say is red line, and they say don't go past red line for obvious reasons. We know what red lines are. We don't like to cross them sometimes, but I'll just be honest with you, sometimes those numbers, in certain opinions, some people have the opinion that they can be a little bit conservative. They're kind of trying to do a CYA type of thing. So I'm not afraid to load this kind of round like this. I've done it before. We have another version with Nosler bullets and AA number 9, which we're going to get to that also. But for now, let's just try this one. A lot of people load this, and I know that a lot of you want to know what it actually does with some accuracy, chronograph testing, and gel. So the two firearms we're going to be using today are the ones that we always use. We're going to use a Springfield XDM Elite OSP XDM Elite. That's a 10mm 3.8 inch, and we have a Holosun 507C red dot on it. We also have the Colt Delta Elite, and that's a 5-inch 1911 with 3 white dot iron sights. So between these two guns, we'll get two different velocities, and we'll get two different results on the gel. We will be shooting through the sometimes misbehaving chronograph. Let's cross our fingers, and we're going to be going into these targets behind me. These are the same B8 targets that we always shoot. We're going to go for the X-ring, check our accuracy. We do all of our accuracy testing offhand. We don't use a rest, we don't use a table, and like I always explain, it's because in the real world, you probably aren't going to have a rest or a table if you're in a defensive shooting. And let's be honest, this is defensive ammo. We're going to move the chronograph to right in front of the gel so that we capture the velocity of the bullets that are entering the gel. And we have two 20-inch gel blocks for a total of 40 inches of 10% clear ballistics gel. Hopefully we get the rounds separated enough where we can see the difference. And I don't think we're going to go through 40 inches, but we always have a backup block. Testing explained, let's get to shooting. All right, 15 feet off that chronograph, 20 feet off that left B8 target. We're going to go with the XDM Elite first because it is the trusty dusty, super reliable one. Holy crap, 1424. Wow, this is 1427. So that's a handful. I'm sure you can see that. Woo, 1430. And 1455, that is monster hot. Woo, 1400. It locked back and super hot. That was out of a 3.8 inch barrel. Let me find a piece of that brass, hopefully, and take a look at that. All right, there's one piece I found has a tiny little dent from on its way out of the chamber, I'm sure. And the primer is a little bit flattened. There's a tiny bit of a swipe. There's a tiny bit of a swell, but not too bad. No big bulges or anything, and I think we're good. So this is my very first shot. I broke that trigger just a hair early. Then my other ones are in here. I think this might have been my last one, but boy, that is a handful, but you can get it into where you need to put it. All right, time for the Delta Elite. I'll be honest, I don't like running these in this gun. It's a little hot for this gun, but we're gonna do it, and hopefully we don't have a problem. There's less than an ideal amount, or slightly less than ideal amount of chamber support in this particular firearm, but with brand new brass, we should be good. I mean, I've done this before many times, but you never know. Every day's different. $15.20, that's pretty nice. And $15.17. $14.84. $15.06. Woo! $15.34. That's got a good amount of bite to it, or like kick to it, but I'll tell you what, truthfully, this is one of the rare instances where the 1911 is absorbing it much better than the Springfield. The Springfield does a very good job of absorbing recoil, but in this instance, I'd rather shoot it out of the Delta totally 100%. All right, here's the Delta brass. A little bit of a different kind of a swipe from when it knocked itself out of there, but primer looks good, a little bit flattened, not too bad of a swipe in there from the firing pin or anything, and I don't see any swelling back there, so I think we're good. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll take that every day with iron sights for sure. Every day's a little different story with the iron sights and the different ammos, but as long as we're getting here in the 10 or X-ring, I'm really happy. If we come out of that, get in the 9, it starts aggravating me, but really good accuracy there. Good accuracy here with the red dot, even though I jumped one up there towards the 9, but pretty controllable in the 1911, a little less controllable in the XDM. It's still controllable in either platform. It's not gonna rip itself out of your hand. All right, 15 feet off the chronograph and the Joe block this time. Well, let's see how bad we toss it around, if we toss it around. $14.34. Let's take a look. $14.34. We smacked it right where we wanted to. Let's take a look from the side. All right, coming in from the side, we have the typical XTP or jacketed hollow point type of a wound channel, permanent wound cavity, settles itself down. That bullet is landing at the 12-inch mark. It bounced back from, I would say, the 13, possibly 13.25 at about the very most, but the projectile appears to be intact. It didn't destroy itself. That's very good. Landed not face forward, but that doesn't matter. It's got the proper wound cavity there. Let's take a look from the top. From the top, we're seeing the entrance wound just like we see from the side. There's not really much difference. We see where the bullet landed from this angle downward, and we can see it's right there at, I'd call it the 12 and a half. Let's see what happens with a 5-inch barrel. All right, 1911 time. Let's see what happens. Jesus, $15.94. That is awesome. $15.94, and boom and splat right there. We did lose a little bit of lead right there, right at the very beginning. You see some lead stuck in there. We don't see that too often like that. You can see a little piece sheared off there to the right. We have a piece of lead right directly in the entrance wound. That's pretty interesting. Coming in from the side, we see much more of an explosive wound path right there. I guess now looking here down at the bottom one, maybe I can see just the faintest little piece of dark spot from shedded lead on the XDM, but this one we definitely have a piece lost right there. That big wound cavity extends down here, and the projectiles land at just about the same spot with just a hair different amount of bounce back. They are both sitting right at 12.5 inches, except for this one has a bounce back that is definitely 13 inches, 13.5 inches. Where I'd say the other one's 13, maybe 13.5-ish. The projectile is not face forward either. It looks like it may have widened out a little bit more. We'll have to see, but that's definitely a really nice initial wound path. That thing doesn't settle down till about the 8 or 9 inch mark right there. Let's look from the top. So boom, really nice entrance. That's a very nice permanent wound cavity. Coming down there, we see it at its resting place. It's pretty cool how they ended up at the same place. Bounce back's a little different, but definitely a difference here in the wound channel. That's really awesome. So there's what it looks like, guys. When you guys load these up all the time and shoot them, there's what they look like. All right, what we've got going on here is pretty cool. This is the one out of the Delta Elite with the 5-inch barrel. You can see these pedals, they curled back on themselves. They folded in right behind themselves really nice. That's the only one that didn't fold in, but it's kind of like a Mentos shape now. It's not like your typical bottom end of the bullet we see. This one, we do still see the bottom end of the bullet because these pedals did a really cool job of tucking in like very uniformly around, all the way around. It made like a baker's cap or something. I know I'm comparing these to weird things, but two totally different ways that they ended up in the back end. From the front end though, they kind of look similar. They don't have too big of a difference in frontal diameter there, but very impressive. XTPs and gold dots, these type of projectiles, they do really good at staying together. We did lose some pieces of lead, which you're gonna see right there in the corner of your screen, the actual retained weight. But for the most part, we do have a big old chunk of lead that did stay together. So there you go. When you see someone show up to the range with their 10mm and one of these kind of boxes, and it's really roaring and breathing some fire, and you go, what the heck is that? It's probably some of these kind of hot reloads like this. These are pretty common, like I said, in the 10mm world. There's a certain name for them, I'm not gonna say, but it's blankety hot reloads. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. I know a lot of you guys wanted to see this. I know, like I said, this is not like our most of our testing, most of the cartridges. However, I sure hope you enjoyed it, and maybe it got a few of you interested in reloading because this is what you can do. And you can do it on the pretty cheap in all reality. Let me know in the comments what you think of these. And remember, don't follow my recipes, make your own. Thanks for watching this video. We hope to see you at the next video, and until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting.